So, in this video, we'll discuss question number 48. Explain the doctrine of taking of mortgage as the very answer we found under section 93 of the Transfer of Property Act. So, section 93 enacts that no mortgage G. Paying off a prior mortgage, whether with or without notice of an intermediate mortgage, shall thereby acquire any priority in respect of his original security. In other words, suppose a subsequent mortgagee, say mortgagee number 3, pays off mortgagee number 1, then he cannot add or take his own mortgage number 3 to number 1, which he pays off. This may be further made for better understanding and with an illustration, and the very illustration is that A mortgages the X property to B, and which is number 1, and then A mortgages subsequently the X property to C, and it would be considered as number 2, and again A mortgages subsequently the same X property to D, it would be considered as number 3. So, in this particular problem, D may redeem B and be subrogated to the rights of B, but he only takes priority over C in respect of B's mortgage and not in respect of his own mortgages, as we found in between the three mortgages of the same property, the X property, Y, A, the mortgager, and in the first number, B is the mortgagee, and in the second case, A is again the mortgager, and the property is the same X property, and here in the second number, C is becoming the mortgagee of the same property subsequently, and in the third number, A, the same mortgager, mortgages the same X property to D, which is under number 3. So here D may redeem B and his be subrogated to the rights of B, but he only takes priority over C in respect of B's mortgage and not in respect of his own mortgage. And we found one exception to this rule, and that is stacking is recognized when the mortgage expresses a maximum to be secured thereby. So, to explain that, we have also selected another one illustration, and that is A mortgages to B the number 1 mortgage, and subsequently A mortgages to C number 2. So also subsequently A mortgages to D, that is number 3. So if number 1 mortgage to B is to secure a maximum of Rs 1000 and Rs 400 is advance at the time of the mortgage, and after mortgage number 2 to C, B then advances of the rest rupees 600. This advance of rupees 600 is tagged to number 1, that is mortgage to B, and has priority over number 2, and that is mortgage to C. So this is all about the very doctrine of taking of mortgage as we found under section 93 of the Transfer of Property Act, which clearly provides that no mortgagee paying off a prior mortgage, whether with or without notice of an intermediate mortgage, shall thereby acquire any priority in respect of his original security. In other words, the very illustration would like to discuss. Suppose a subsequent mortgagee, say mortgagee number 3 pays off mortgagee number 1, then he cannot add or take his own mortgage number 3 to number 1, which he pays off. So, the very doctrine of taking of mortgages, we have explained this very provision of section 93 with the illustration, and that illustration we have made as number 1, number 2 and number 3, where the X property is mortgages by one mortgager, and that is A, to different persons, first to B, then second to C, and the third to D, and how B may redeem B and he be subrogated to the rights of B, but he only takes priority over C in respect of B's mortgage and not in respect of his own mortgage. That we have discussed also the very exception to this doctrine that we have discussed such in the same way as number 1, number 2 and number 3, the same mortgager and the same property, mortgage to 3 different mortgagee as B, C and D, and how by the very number we have explained. If number 1, property mortgage to B is to secure a maximum of Rs rupees 1000 and Rs 400 is advanced by B at the time of the mortgage, and after the subsequent mortgage by A to C, the second number 2 mortgage, then B advances the rest rupees 600 as he promised this advance of Rs 600 is tagged to number 1 mortgage and has priority over number 2, and that number 2 is the subsequent mortgage of the same property by A to C. So, this is all relating to the doctrine of taking of mortgage as provided under section 93 of the Transfer of Property Act. So, the very answer to this question number 48 explain the doctrine of taking of mortgages we consider as the most appropriate and relevant answer to this question. So, we have finished up to question number 48 relating to law of property. So, in our next upcoming videos, we will discuss all the rest questions that we have framed regarding law of property.